Hello, I'm Christian Taylor at Christian Taylor 4027. That's right, at Christian Taylor 4027. That's me. Beware of imitations. There is another fella out there. He's a musician also. He happens to play guitar. I haven't heard any of his stuff yet. I probably oughta. But he's not me. But good luck to him, and God bless you. Just the same. And I'm also not the runner. I think the fella is a runner. He is also Christian Taylor, but he's not me. He's not at Christian Taylor 4027 because that's me. And right now, I'd like to start a little something called Guitars Are on YouTube. This isn't going to be exactly an installment like I've done in the past. This one might be rambling on and on. And I'm just going to ramble about some stuff. Hope it's interesting to you. We'll see. And have a bunch of notes here scribbled on backs of envelopes and whatnot. So I'm just going to dive right into it. Something I've been thinking about for a little while now is, in life, people tell you, well, don't take this personal, don't take that personal, don't take it personal, Probably doesn't mean anything. But when it comes to your guitar playing, there's a lot of stuff you might want to take personally. For instance, the kind of picks that you use. Seems like a little thing, but actually, it makes a big, big difference. Different picks for different folks, different picks for different jobs. For instance, light picks sound really nice on your acoustic when you're humming and strumming. A lot of heavy guitar players like to use very, very hard picks. I've been in that category for quite some time now, and I've been trying to expand my pick horizons, if you will. For a long time, I've been very reliant on the Jim Dunlop nylon 6mm with a thumb grip pick. If I didn't have those, that would be trouble. But lately, I've been trying this pick, that pick, this kind of pick, another kind of pick. You would think that the pick with the thumb grip would tend to stay in my thumb and my forefinger grip, but no. I started dropping them and dropping them and dropping them. Very frustrating. But the regular old plastic, I think they're made out of, very smooth pick. Doesn't seem like it would, but it stays right in my hand. So been using those. Like I say, different picks for different jobs. You might want to have a whole bunch of picks. Apply them to different tasks. And sometimes, if you're like me, you might have something you call a lucky pick. You've been keeping it and playing it for 6-8 weeks, 6-8 months, who knows how long. Picks, like anything, they do get worn out, and as they wear out, they might not be conducive or make it easy what you're trying to do. It was pointed out to me once that new picks, they come with, of course, they're not worn, the shape is exactly what it's supposed to be, and most of them are coated with something or other that makes them glide across the strings nice and easy. Need all the help you can get, right? And after you've been using it for a while, that's all worn off. Now, if you're like Brian May or Billy Gibbons, you might have a very unorthodox pick. Brian May, he uses an English sixpence, I think it is. It's a coin of some sort. That works for you, then you should do that. Billy Gibbons, I think he uses a peso, which is a different kind of choice. And, those guys are doing pretty good with their pick choice, so might as well stick to it, guys. Another thing is strings you use. Heavy strings, light strings, this brand, that brand, different strings for different guitars. It's all up to you. If you don't know about these things, you might just want to try a heavier set, try a lighter set, try a different brand, try different tunings. Lately, I've been tuning a whole step down for some reason. I've just been liking that. Strings are like rubber bands, and been really digging that. But been doing that for a while. Just last night I was playing. I said, I got to tune this guitar back to standard tuning. Tuned it back. Strings were a little stiff at first, seemingly. A couple minutes though, I got used to it. Playing like nobody's business. Whatever the heck that means. Some people have their guitars set up in a very certain way that works for them. Maybe unorthodox. Maybe other people would say, well, that's crap. For instance, it said that people would pick up Jimi Hendrix's guitar and they couldn't get nothing out of it but a whole bunch of noise and feedback, But Jimmy did real good with it, as we all know. He was okay. And Eric Johnson, he has he has a very light touch with the way he plays with his fretting hand, and he doesn't pick very hard. And other people pick up his guitar, and all they can get out of it is a bunch of buzz, and it doesn't work for them, you know. So, however you set up your guitar, maybe you do it yourself, maybe you have somebody do it, got somebody you trust that does it nice. It's something to think about. What kind of music you're going to play, you know. Some people are blues purists, and more power to them, you know. But if you're not a blues purist, and they're saying to you, well, you can't get into any of that pop music or heavy metal music or hard rock or jazz or Latin or folk, even folk is no good, you know. Maybe that's for you. Maybe you want to go down that road and just concentrate on blues. And if that's what's working for you, that's what's working for you, and you should stick to it. But other folks, like me, for instance, I'm a jack of all trades guitar-wise and master of none. But I'm doing the best I can, you know. A friend of mine saw me finger picking one day, and I was doing okay. And I had this finger picking pattern that I'd been using for years and years. And it only involved my thumb and my index finger. And he said, you know, this fellow was a teacher. He knew what he was talking about. He said, you know, I see what you're doing there. And your thumb is awfully busy. And it was. My thumb was doing the job of 2 or 3 other fingers. But I didn't know how to use the other fingers in finger picking, and didn't really know how to even get started with it. But he said that to me, and it kind of stuck with me. And I decided, you know, I got to incorporate those other fingers in my finger picking technique. And at first, with a whole lot of noise. Ding, digga, digga, ding, digga, 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 ding, ding. It was just terrible. But after a little while, I started getting the hang of it. And something that I started getting going, and I've been working on it now, is something playing guitar, finger picking on guitar, but it sounds like a banjo a bit. It's got that rolling. I don't mean Limp Bizkit. It's got that rolling kind of a triple kind of feel to it, and that sounds good to me. And it's a lot of fun. So I've been working on that, and for me, when I started changing my finger picking styles and technique, you know, I started naturally just having to have other chords to go with it, and I started coming up with all these inversions of standard chords, common chords, that just worked really well for finger picking. So there's lots of stuff you might want to take personal as far as your guitar playing goes. Pardon me. And then there's the amp you might want to use, you know. Some people say, oh, well, you got to have this year Marshall, and you got to have these mods done, and if you don't do that, well, then you're crap. And if that's what works for you, then more power to you, you know. But some people, it's funny, I talk about having a Marshall all the time. I got a baby Marshall, a little MS-20, I think it's called, tiny little thing, battery operated. And if I did have a Marshall, you know, the way my living circumstances are, I'd never get to turn the thing on and use it for the most part. It would just be too loud on 0.5, and then, you know, can't turn it up, can't get that overdrive sound, you know. So for me, I'm a champion of small amps, you know. In a lot of situations, they work just fine. I got a Pathfinder 10. It's 10 watts, as the 10 would imply. It's, for the money, it's spectacular. I don't get paid to say that. They haven't given me anything. Just, in my opinion, it's a great little amp. I jam with the drummer with it, no problem at all. Everybody can hear me. You turn it up. This one is a transistor amp, but man, oh man, it works a lot like a tube amp, and you crank it up, just sounds really good. And I use it at home in a totally different configuration. I have it on the clean channel and turned down pretty quiet. As I note in the descriptions for a lot of my videos that I put up. I have it set very quietly. I got the treble and the bass at 12 o'clock, and I use a bunch of pedals with it, and no fuss, no muss, no bother. Works out pretty good. So handy little amp. The other one that I got is a 15 watt monoprice or stage right amp, and that one also that is tubes, and great little amp. It's louder than heck, in my opinion. Jam with the drummer with that also, no problem. It's plenty loud. The overdrive that it has is great. I love the way it sounds. Gives that old school kind of sound. There's lots of examples you could use, but I always gravitate towards Zeppelin or Rush and their earlier stuff when it was mostly just an amp turned up real loud, overdriving, giving that nice sound. So I think that might wrap up that part. Uh, and then again, maybe not, because I'm rambling on and on. And another thing you might want to take personally, or maybe not take personally, so to speak, but just be aware of is for some folks, this little part of the talk is how clean is clean. Well, that depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. For some folks, clean is absolutely clean, totally, totally, completely, utterly clean. For some folks, that means a solid state amp, no chorus on or nothing like that, no reverb, because for a lot of people, that's not clean. For other folks, it's a tube amp, turned up maybe midway, just below overdriving. Have some nice reverb going, maybe some chorus or a phaser, something like that, or maybe not. Maybe that's not clean to some folks, Your idea of clean, it really depends on what you're trying to do, what kind of music you're exposed to, what you're trying to play, what you like. So that's up to you, that's your personal choice, personal taste. For me, I'm starting to see the wisdom of clean is just a little bit dirty. Not real dirty, but when you go strum, it's nice and clean. Have some reverb going, maybe some chorus or phaser or both if you're crazy like me. Little reverb, like I said, and when you go strum, it's nice and clean, although not utterly clean, as some folks would think. And when you dig in a little more, it's just a little tiny bit of overdrive, just a bit, a little bit of grit might be good for most clean stuff and for some blues playing. And, how clean is clean, that's up to you. And, excuse me, I'm getting parched here. How clean is clean. Anyone that's been going through how rude of me. I'm so very sorry. I was just anxious to get going, and I didn't even introduce you to my partner here, my co-host, Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass, how are you today? He's mighty low down. Yep, low down, Mr. Bass. All right. He was complaining last time because he didn't have a microphone, so I hope you can see that, there's a video record of it now. Mr. Bass, you got your own microphone and everything. You're a fully fledged co-host, and if you have anything to say, just chime right in here like a vox. Just get nice and chimey like a vox and get right in here and speak your piece. All right, on where we go. For anyone that's kept up with my lessons as rambling and somewhat hard to follow and of questionable use they are, practice 9 will be coming. I'm going to gather up all my thoughts on what I did from 1 through 8, and practice 9 is going to be geared towards a lot of theory, or some theory anyway, not a tremendous amount, but if you're new to any theory, it'll feel like it's tremendous, because it's kind of bewildering at first, but a little bit of effort, you can get music theory. It's not that hard. It's a pretty simple math, and pretty easy to relate it to the music after you just got to make a bit of effort with it. And in practice number 9, I want to continue and maybe impart to anyone that's interested in watching the video all that I know about scales and chord construction and inversions and how to know what key you're playing in and what that all means, and the Nashville number system. If you can get a handle on that, you don't have to go to college and be a theory major and become professor of music, teacher, or anything, But just learn the basics like that, like I'm talking about, the scales, chord construction. Why do we say we're playing in this, that, or another key? And the Nashville number system, that'll serve you well, and get a lot of mileage out of that. And, it's something that you can expand on as you go through your musical life and your journey. you'll just keep realizing new things if you understand what key you're playing in, if you understand chord construction, why something's major or minor. I should mention also the three major chord families. You got your major, you got your minor, and you got your dominant. Get a good handle on that, and it'll serve you well. Like I say, you'll be learning, and the way I put it, it'll be unfolding in your head, so to speak, for a long, long time. Um, Someone taught me. I learned a bunch from books. I took a couple lessons from a guy that was a real genius with this stuff and a genius musician to boot. And it'll serve you well. You got to just make a little bit of effort and you'll get it. So practice 9, it's coming. Mr. Bass is the one that got me started on that. Bass is, you got your chord theory and everything for bass also, How much you know depends on how much you want to learn, so to speak. And Mr. Bass, he started teaching me that stuff. I didn't want to learn it at first. I put up a real fight, I used to come over and just untune his strings real bad, And then he couldn't talk to me. Sound like this when you try. I'm sorry, folks. I'll get it back together now. Another thing I wanted to touch on is fairly quickly, right at the beginning of your musical journey, you want to start recording yourself. And at first, you might think that, oh man, I just sound horrible, and I sounded horrible. I started recording myself just because it was fun. A little portable cassette deck like we had back in the day. And I was just awful, I was just awful. I played for a long time not knowing what standard tuning was, so every time I picked up a guitar, I made my own tuning up. That was kind of cool at the time, but eventually I learned that, standard tuning, A440. That's how I can relate to all these other folks that are playing guitar. Before that, I was kind of in my own world a little bit. But you should record yourself and listen. You got to be honest with yourself. If it's not great, you got to realize it's not great. Look at things that you can actually do to improve it. If you're weak in this area, weak in that area, not good at this, listen and look, see what needs to be fixed up, put a little effort into it, and no problem. You'll start to get better, and it's fun too. Make up some music, see what comes naturally to you, see what's easy, see what's not so easy. You got to push yourself a little bit. And ideas, they come and go really quickly. I mean, in a couple seconds, you can have a great idea, and if you don't get it down on tape, or if you're able to write music, get it down like that, or commit it to memory somehow, it's just gone. It's just a passing thought, no matter how cool it was. And that's a shame when you have a good idea and can't remember how the heck did that go, And as part of that, I got written down here, you gotta practice training your ear. It's hard. It's really hard. You start off, come on, Light. You start off not being able to hear, not knowing what you're doing. Everything's new, and you don't have any history, any background to doing this. But you just got to do it. You just got to keep working at it, And if you record yourself, you'll notice that you're getting a little better. If not, then you just got to drill on basics, get back to the basics. Don't try and get way ahead of yourself, just get back to the basics, play some sort of chord progression and use a metronome or a drum machine. Keep yourself in time. That's really important. If you're able to record yourself, you can at least record something that you do, and then you can play along with that, and you'll start to see how things fit together, which is really, really, really good. It's not easy to catch on to. It's not obvious at first, but you do that a little bit and you start really seeing how different parts fit together, how melody, rhythm, harmony, how that all fits together, If you're able to, you have any books to look in, to read, to, maybe you have a music book and you go through it, maybe you only understand 10% of it, but that's 10% more than you understood when you started. So no effort that you put into it will be wasted, you know. If you don't like theory, force yourself to be a little bit disciplined and learn some of it. And that's the end of that part of the talk. And going on through my scribble notes on the back of envelopes, literally. Guitars Around YouTube. I did Guitars Around YouTube a little while ago, and I was thinking that I was listening to a train wreck amp. The show was about train wreck amps, but what I was actually hearing was a Comet amplifier, which is based on the train wreck topology, I think I would say. It's a proper way to put it. And got to admit, I don't have the greatest ear for things, you know, things either not as good as some folks. Some folks have really good ears, amp designers or some musicians, you know. I can hear what sounds good and what doesn't sound good to me, you know. But the Trainwreck amp and the Comet amp, and there's the Dr. Z amps, man, they sound good. They are not cheap. I'll probably never have one, but gotta say that they sounded really, really good. Cool amp to have. And I said that I was listening to the Trainwreck amp as I was watching that video, or I was doing a little ramble about it. And it was actually the Comet Arrow that I was listening to. And boy, it sounded good. It was a combo amp, I believe. I think it was 60 watts. Really nice amp. So just wanted to clear that up. So you can skip that right now. Now we're up to something that I don't know if I can do that right now. I'm gonna have to see. You know, I want to talk to you for a moment about somebody that's near and dear to my heart and my musical ear. Yep, talking about Todd Rundgren. Probably never heard of Todd Rundgren. Maybe you did. Probably never did though. And he was an in-demand producer. He produced Hall & Oates, produced Grand Funk, produced Meatloaf. Had a bunch of hit singles in the early 70s with I Saw the Light and Hello It's Me and Can We Still Be Friends? And he he got mad at himself for having hit songs, if you can imagine such a thing. So he went in a sort of avant style. And being a fan, I dug it. When he released the album, he said it was like a bomb went off at his at the record company at Warner Brothers Bearsville. They were not happy with him at that time, but guy has a tremendous history. Must have 50 or more albums. He's done a lot of different music. Some you might hate, some you might be okay with, some you probably really love because he's written some really good songs. There's some great sounds, particularly his guitar playing. To me, he was way ahead of everybody else in what he was doing with guitar and the effects that he used and how he put them together. To me, he's had a fantastic sound, fantastic use of effects. Really dug the guy. I think you'd get a lot out of it if you looked up some Todd Rundgren music, give him a chance. Try some different parts of his history. He's been around since the late 60s. He's still active now. Todd Rundgren and Utopia. Utopia was a band he had together for a while. Very famous in some circles. Tremendous players. A lot of great albums. A lot of great songs. Check them out. Todd Rundgren and Utopia. All right. And that's enough about that. And I went over all that. Pardon me. Here's something I wanted to talk about because I'm an old guy. And I had a little talk about this in one of my talks about back in the 90s when I was fairly active playing gigs and stuff like that. I kept all my pedals. I didn't use them anymore. I still had them. And I went to rack-mounted gear. And it worked very well for me. I dug it. It was real convenient and zillion sounds at the touch of a foot switch. That was pretty cool. And I thought pedals went the way of the dodo. I really didn't think pedals were around anymore. And then lo and behold, Fairly recently, in the last couple of years, I learned that, pedals are back in vogue. This boutique movement, and don't know what you know about that. Maybe you know a lot, maybe you only know a little, but that's not really important. What I wanted to get at is, you're an old guy if you get yourself a bunch of pedals, and then buying a pedal board to mount them on just seems like a foreign idea. And you think, well, no, I'm not buying a pedal board to put my pedals on. The way we did it back in the day, and it was good enough for Eddie Van Halen. So we'd get some shelving or some scrap wood or something, and we'd make our own pedal board. And granted, they weren't pretty. If you did a pretty decent job on it, it'd be very functional. If not, you might be trying to get to the buttons and the pedals are too close and you're stomping on the wrong thing. But yeah, that's the way we did it back in the day. And we'd make our own pedal board. And the pedal board you put together said a lot about you, If you looked at my board, you would think, this guy is not God's gift to pedal board making, but it works good for me. I got all the stuff that I need on there. I knew what to tape down permanently, or at least I thought I did anyway. I had all my drive pedals on there, and with the zillion other pedals that I have, that was just too much, and a whole lot of cabling. So I decided, well, I'll only have the one or two drive pedals on there that I'm using at the time to get a certain sound, and the other ones I won't put on at that time. So I had to untape them and take them off, but that was no big deal. Situation's in flux. It's bound to change. It's variable. It's in progress. It's always in progress. And if you buy your pedal board, well, more power to you. Probably wonder what the heck I'm talking about. And if you make your pedal board, well, hey, I'm an old guy too. Let's see, we already talked about picks. Another thing you might want to take personally, and I've mentioned this before, but it's just a good thing to mention again. You going to stand up and play your guitar most of the time, or are you going to sit down? Now, as I've gotten older, I've found that sitting down really is conducive for me to playing guitar. I sit right on the edge of the chair. Don't fall off, be careful. Just like a classical guitar player would. Your picking hand winds up pretty near your belly button, thereabouts, The neck and the frets are all in a pretty reachable place. But for some people, that just doesn't work. Doesn't work for them. And some people, they want to put it on their right leg and have it more like this. You can probably imagine what I'm doing, Me, I put it on my left leg. So picking hands ends up around my belly button. The neck is here. Everything's pretty easy to reach. Of course, the downside of that is, should I go out to jam with some friends or something, or have a gig once every 100 years, and I stand up, which is what I would usually use at a gig, because, well, I used to think sitting down is just not rock and roll, unless you're Robert Fripp. He can get away with it. He's still cool. But when I do play standing up, I do okay, but it just seems so, come on, Light, it just seems so foreign to me. Everything seems to be in the wrong place, and I can't stop thinking that, oh man, this is just, everything's not situated the way I like it. But give it some thought, how you hold your guitar and what works good to you. That's up to you. Everybody else might tell you that you should wear your guitar on your head, but if that doesn't work for you, then, use the classical style, or use the Jimmy Page style and wear it around your knees. And I don't know how he plays like that, but he plays pretty good. It looks cool too. Looking cool is pretty important. So, if you want to look cool, check out Jimi Hendrix. He looked pretty cool. Played some good stuff too. You learn this when you get into chord construction, and I'll try and bring this up again and just touch on this briefly. Intervals, what's a major third? Why do we say that that's a major third, G to B, for instance, and why would G to B flat, or B flat, why would G to B flat be a minor third, Well, it's not just made up, it's not just random. There is a reason for it. You can model it with math if that's easy for you to understand. Makes perfect sense, but it's good to know. Good to know if you're playing a major chord or a minor chord or a dominant chord. Um, those three chord families, that covers a lot of musical territory for you. The major chords, minor chords, and dominant chords. Um, if you understand that and you want to go to the next step and get into modal theory, knowing what a key center is, why we say we're playing in this, that, other key, and knowing intervals and chord construction, that'll open the doors to modal playing real easily for you. Um, and, these things aren't easy to understand. They're not rocket science, but they're not easy either. And if you get a little confused, just maybe seek some help from the internet or a teacher or a friend or a book, or maybe just put it in your hat for a while. You don't understand this, but you just keep that question in the back of your mind. What did that mean? And in time, you're going to figure it out. And it's important stuff. You don't realize why you need it until you do need it, or how it will help you until it does help you. And then, the way I express it in metaphor is like the doors will just open right up for you, You'll understand things that you didn't understand, and you'll be able to hear things that you didn't really hear before. And your music that you make will be more emotive, and the emotions of music will be more apparent to you, and you'll enjoy it more. I think. Let's see, I already It's a beautiful day here in the Northeast, 200 feet below ground in my secret studio, where you may see natural light coming in, but that's fake natural light. I invented that, and me and Mr. Bass, we invented and perfected that, the artificial natural light. And to hear Mr. Bass tell it, he did the whole thing, right? Yeah, haha. But it was a team effort. We both did it. And I'd tell you where we are here in the Northeast, 200 feet below ground, but then you would know where I am, and it wouldn't be a secret anymore. Being as this is the secret studio, you see what I'm getting at. Let's see, we already went over how clean is clean. You might want to spend some time thinking about how clean is clean for you, and maybe you don't need just one clean sound, maybe you need a few different clean sounds that cover different, a couple different musical territories, and you can apply differently. You might need something absolutely clean to the point of being almost sterile, is the way that it's expressed by a lot of people. Or, in addition to that, you might need something that's just a little bit overdriven, If you pick harder, it has a little bit of a bite to it. You strum softly, and it's nice and clean. Sound like that, very useful. You can cover a lot of ground with that. And again, these things aren't easy, I've spent a lot of time, years and years, moving the knobs around and seeing what they did, and, looking for this or that sound, and sometimes you get there, and sometimes you think you get there, but the next day or next week you start playing along with it again, and you think, man, this sounds like crap. This isn't the sound I'm looking for, and you start all over again, And a little bit of advice I have for you here is oftentimes when we're using the knobs on our amps, or when you're doing EQ in whatever arrangement you're doing that, be it knobs or sliders or buttons or whatever it is, almost all of us, including me, all the time we think, well, I'm going to add something. I'm going to add more mids, I'm going to add more bass, I'm going to add more highs, I'm going to add more transient frequencies, what have you, whatever it is. Not very often do we think that, oh, I'm going to lower this or that group of frequencies. I'm going to cut a bit of this, which is as often as you need to, situation is as often as the right thing would be to add some highs or some mids or what have you, whatever it needs, in your opinion. It's probably just as many instances where you need to cut the low mids, or which me and my friend called woo. I've been. We used to talk about the woo. It would take over your mix, this lower mid-range frequency, and it wasn't good. We were always trying to keep the woo in the right measure. So I don't know why. It's our natural inclination to want to add something frequency-wise when we're EQing. And just as often, probably do you well to cut this or that frequency. So keep that in mind. I touched on this. I'm just going to go over this quickly a little bit. How do you know when you make progress? Well, if you're an egomaniac, then you think you make progress and that you're the best guitarist in the world in all styles. And you're probably not. But if you're not that guy, you want to record yourself, you want to listen to that, you want to be very honest with yourself about, well, this sounds pretty good. This over here, though, this sounds like crap. Got to work on that. If you don't, if you don't know where it's sounding bad, how are you going to make progress? And if you're not recording yourself ever, or nobody else is recording your gigs or practices or whatever, how are you going to know they're getting any better? So it's important. So record yourself. Listen to a few people that you respect their opinion. Pardon me, your best friend and your girlfriend, and maybe they're being honest with you, but then again, maybe they just don't want to hurt your feelings or something. So sometimes you got to be hard on yourself. If something sounds like crap, you got to say, well, that sounds like crap. I got to do that better. Touch on this just briefly. Something just popped into my head. I'm like that. It's nice to have electronic tuners. If you got a tuning pedal, or if you got a clip-on, or even if you're still using a tuning fork or a pitch pipe. The pitchfork and the tuning pike are a little harder, but the pedal and the clip-on, they make tuning a breeze. And when you're in a hurry, it's fantastic. But once in a while, you should try and tune your guitar by ear. And if you do, your ear is going to get a lot better, because it ain't easy to do. And it takes a long time. But to me, it just makes sense that that's going to improve your ear if you can tune your guitar, by ear. If you can't, it might be one of them things that you got to work on. Or, maybe I'm just old-fashioned, and it's not really the way I'm saying, but that's been my experience. And the electronic tuners are great. You don't want to be tuning by ear in the middle of a gig or something like that. If you're trying to record, paying for recording time, you don't want to be tuning by ear. But when the situation is right, you should tune your guitar by ear. You'll learn a lot from it. And that's my personal opinion. That's how I feel. And it's my show, so I'm telling you. That's another one of them things that you should take personally. Maybe somebody else will say, oh, it don't matter. It doesn't matter if you can tune your guitar by ear or not. Perhaps to them it really doesn't, and everything goes great with them. But in my experience, it's good to be able to tune your guitar by ear. Good ear training, just like learn things off CDs, off the radio, off your computer, whatever you can pick up by ear. Some of your practice time should be doing that. Make you a much better musician. Positional boxes, don't want to talk about that right now. Something else that's personal is, well, what's your sound? Is your sound super clean, sterile? Is your sound so gainy that it's a nuclear meltdown? And you scare your neighbors and smoke comes out of your window or your practice space or something? Or are you somewhere in between? Oh, I lost my pen. Mr. Bass, give me that pen. Mr. Bass is trying to take my pen. And all points in between, sterile clean and nuclear meltdown, that's up to you. And that's the kind of thing that you should take personally, But personally, this is the sound that I like, And your sound is gonna, most players always have it with them, so to speak, but it's always changing also, I've gone through a lot of different sounds over the years. It depends on the gear that you have, uh, get the greatest sound in your opinion that you can get out of that gear. And I guess that's all I got to say about that. And be open to experimenting with your sound, Try nuclear meltdown gain, try super duper clean, try different effects, Maybe one of the effects gets to be, oh man, I love that thing. We'll just turn that on all the time, We'll just leave it on. Some effects are subtle like that, and you can leave them on all the time. It said that Robert Smith from The Cure had a chorus pedal that was on all the time, no matter what was going on, what he was doing, what he was playing. There was this chorus pedal, and it was always on. And he's done pretty well with that, Big success, The Cure, worldwide fame. Yep, so I can't argue with that. For the most part, I don't have any always on pedal, but I'm not against the idea, I'm not against it. So that's something you might want to consider. And like I'm talking about here, that's very personal, Somebody else might say, your sound, it's garbage. You're playing garbage music. It's awful. Maybe so, Maybe it works for you. That's what you like. Or maybe think about it. Yeah, he's right. This is garbage sound. It sounds like crap, you got to do something about it. Already went over this. Oh, Mr. Bass, he's reminded me that another thing that's really good for you to do, in my opinion, is if you play guitar, probably play bass too. Once in a while, that'll help you understand the music. Maybe even get yourself a bass if you're going to keep playing. Having a bass around and knowing how to play bass, really, really handy. And then from one point of view, good bass player is going to get a lot more gigs than a good guitar player, Somebody once told me, his guitar teacher, he told me, oh, good guitar players, they're a dime a dozen, Good bass player, that's hard to find. So if you have the equipment and you can play bass, might be a good idea. Go out and play bass with a couple of bands, make a little do, re, mi, buy that always on effect pedal that you wanted or whatever, buy some sandwiches. Tablature, I've never learned a lot by tab. I've learned some. It's difficult for me, but I would say it's a good way to go. Learn things by tab, and don't do that in exclusion to learning things by ear, Both are really great. There's lots of teachers here, there, and everywhere. Resources are just out of the park, so to speak, these days. When I was a kid, there was one guitar teacher in your town, and he wasn't even that great. The internet didn't exist, Get a music book. Well, I don't know which book to get. If I did, I could teach myself. So it's better these days. And anytime you learn even just part of a song, maybe you don't have a long time, but I got 15 minutes before I got to do something, and I'm going to try and learn the intro to this song, or a little bit of this lead break here. And anything that you learn by that, it's good practice. It's going to serve you well. And no matter what kind of player you are, every once in a while, do something guitar-wise or bass-wise, if you're a bass player listening to this, that you wouldn't normally play, If you're a metal player, try and play something easy listening. Or try and play something, some pop or a folk song or whatever, just something different than what you do all the time. I think you can learn a lot by that, Probably not going to go full on into that style. It's not your thing, but you'll learn a lot from it. So whatever you do all the time, every once in a while, don't do that all the time. Try a different type of music. Try it with a different sound. Uh, go out to music stores, and guitar centers, and what have you. Use equipment. Get to know what you like, what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you can afford. You know, might want to learn. There's a piece of gear that I can afford that works really well. So we're not born knowing what that is. So gotta try out a bunch of different gear. Good idea is go to the music shop, try it all out, drive the guys crazy in there, turn up to 11, drive all their other customers out. No, I'm just kidding. Be polite, be professional, uh, be nice to those folks, and learn what the different gear does. And like I said, you might find, well, I can't afford that, can't afford that. That though, that works really well, and I can afford that. So learn what that is for you. There was something else part of this talk that I was going to do, but now I thought better of it, and it's just too embarrassing. But I've been playing guitar for a long time, and there's some styles, some songs that I can't play very well, you know, and I keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it. keep trying to get those things that are difficult for me, or that I don't understand, and that's okay. That's okay. Um, Good example is Eddie Van Halen. I love Eddie Van Halen. Rest in peace, Eddie. Guy knocked my head off when I first heard him, and then he continued to knock my head off for the rest of his career. And I've tried to play a lot of his stuff. I get it somewhat. Some of it's just too freaking weird, though. Or too hard. I don't know how he came up with that stuff or how he was able to do it, but I keep trying, and it just dawned on me, and this is a funny thought. Maybe it'll mean something to you, maybe it won't. I think I'm going to close on this. But so where the heck was I going? Oh, Eddie Van Halen for me, also Eric Johnson. Those were two cats that I really, really liked the way they played. Thought they were very unique. I really thought they were great. Can't say it. I could say it in 2 million different ways. You probably don't want to hear that, and I don't blame you. But really dug those guys. But I thought if I learned a real lot of their music, that I might disappear into that, And so you got to be slightly wary of that, You want to be yourself. You don't want to be a clone. Where's the dividing line? Of course, that's up to you. Everybody might have a different opinion on that. But ideally, I think you want to take a little of this, a little of that, a little of your own inspiration, some mom and pop's music or whatever it is, and you come up with your own thing, And I just never was all that great at being a clone of anybody. Maybe that's just my fault. Maybe I'm not that good. But never wanted to get into somebody else's thing so much that I sort of disappeared, And another funny group or music group, a group of musicians that was like that, was the Grateful Dead. I didn't want to. They dug the Grateful Dead. I saw them a lot of times. Had a lot of fun going to Dead concerts. Jammed with a bunch of buddies that I had. Played a lot of different Dead songs. A lot of fun. Didn't want to ever disappear into that though. So I'm gonna end on that. Just beware of that. Be yourself. Remember, some things you shouldn't take personally. It's just a bad attitude to take some things personally. But when it comes to your guitar playing, there's a lot of things that you should take personally, It's your choice what picks you use, what guitars you play, what strings you put on, what music you choose to play, what amps you use, or maybe you don't use amps at all, maybe you're an acoustic player, I saw a dude, new guy to me, Guthrie Trapp was his name. And I'm not sure how old this video was. I don't think it was all that old, actually. It's a few weeks old, and just watching it a little while ago. And man, oh man, he's playing some nice acoustic blues. Really, really competent player. I'm gonna get back to that and try and learn some more of what he's doing there. Just great, great player. Guthrie Trap, little promotion for him. And that's it. This has been Guitars Around YouTube, rambling on and on version. My name's Chris Taylor, at Christian Taylor 4027. Have fun playing your guitar. Don't hurt nobody. Don't hurt yourself. Um, let's see. I guess that's it. I was trying to think of a funny thing or closing word of a good word to say to y'all. And don't be too picky. But don't let anybody string you along. I knew these folks. They made me all amped up. We were gonna have a band. We were gonna be big. They were just amping me up, just stringing me along. In the end, I was strapped. You know. Okay, that's enough of that. Y'all take care now. Bye.